I wrote this down because I know after 2 glasses I might ramble or forget everything. So, and when Dave asked me to talk about an oh shit moment, I thought there's probably a lot that I probably can't say in public. So, yeah. So what I have got, I can say in public. My first moment was some 30 years plus ago. I won't sort of be too precise because we don't want to do the maths there, do we? When I lived in Israel, I'd been on the kibbutz a brief time and I was still reasonably ignorant of the locale when I decided to go into a local Arab village for a visit in the afternoon. That wasn't uncommon in itself, but considerably naive possibly for a young blonde girl to do on her own. On my own, yes, that kind of screams out at you now, but it didn't at the time for me. We were pretty familiar with a number of the local villages, as I had been in the village often with other people from the kibbutz, so we were on reasonably friendly terms. I had a coffee, I bought a few things from the local produce store and chatted to a number of people before I decided to head back to the kibbutz. The kibbutz was about a 20-minute walk from the village, a very pleasant, peaceful 20-minute walk in the afternoon sun. About 5 minutes into the walk, I noticed a couple of local Arab youth walking along opposite side of the road behind me. I felt a little wary, but not overly concerned, as I believed that I had developed reasonably amicable relationships with all of them in the village. It was a small village. It wasn't until they crossed over the road and came up behind me that I did start to feel a stirring of concern and hastened my pace, and they did too. We Australians are so polite, we don't want to offend anyone, so I thought if I run, well, they might get the wrong idea and they'll be offended. You know, they may misinterpret it, so I waited way too long to react. All doubt left my mind when they started running as well, as I took off as if I was jogging. I felt a real panic sweep over me. By this time I really was running hard. I took off and cut through the avocado orchard that belonged to the kibbutz. By now I was on the kibbutz land, but it was still some distance from the fence that surrounded the residential settlement, and I knew that I would not be out of the woods until I was on the other side of that fence. I've never been so clear in my mind and so fast on my legs. I usually get easily disorientated. I always have to focus on where I park the car, or I lose my direction when I come out of a shopping centre. In the past, I always avoided going through the orchards, even though it is the direct route and therefore the quickest route back to the kibbutz. But the orchards are huge, and it's really easy to disorientate and get lost trying to find the fence, let alone the security gate in the fence, which was really small. I could hear the running sound on leaves crunching underfoot behind me, and also sensed running coming up on the side, but I didn't dare look back as that would take seconds off my lead, and I was pretty sure at that stage that I only had more than a few seconds anyway. It was going to take more than a few seconds to get over that fence, as even though I may find the fence, I was pretty sure I wouldn't find the gate. My direction, my disorientation was enormous and still is. Adrenaline can do phenomenal things to the system. It still amazes me that when I reached that tall barbed wire fence, I managed to scramble up and literally leap over the barbed wire. I remember falling to the ground on the other side and feeling overwhelmed with what I had escaped. I just stayed there, not really able to move. Body turned to jelly, mind reeling. The moment its implications for life just kind of washed over me. What the heck had just happened? The afternoon was going well, hell, life was going well, and in a heartbeat I'd been thrust into the fork of the road where life outcomes on the different paths that would be dramatically different. How could such a monumentous moment with potentially momentous life changes happen in such a brief moment? That struck me as something that I really needed to grasp. Life could change in a heartbeat. Up until that precise moment in my life, I'd probably just ridden the wave wherever it was going. I travelled, I worked, I just did whatever took my fancy. But at that moment, on the safe side of the fence, I really got it. It was like a bolt hitting my conscious mind. I needed to be mindful of all my choices, bring some wisdom and thought to bear on every choice, which I certainly had not done that day. I was responsible for the story of me. The wave may be great fun, but I needed to look at where it was going before I at least decided to ride it. It was really, seriously a blessed escape, one that I've never taken lightly, and a life lesson that has since guided me. My second one, which I can also share, was not as memorable, but it was very dramatic, I thought. The scene was in 1988, some 10 years later, a hospital bed in Israel. The gathering throng were all waiting the birth of my first and only son, and they did that in Israel. Everyone comes into the room with you. It's a great moment. I say we, but it was really all about me. We were all well and truly into the process. I wasn't finding it a particularly pleasant one. They didn't seem to mind. They were all gathered around talking. I could hear the Arab women in the room next to me going, oh, whatever they do, but that's when they give birth. And that's when the oh shit moment occurred. I knew this was not for me. Sure, I wanted a baby, but this birthing thing was not going to work for Jenny. I had made a mistake and I was going home. I would seriously find another way around this. Now, this is all hearsay only, as I was sedated at the time, and yeah, right, that helps. But as the story was relayed to me afterwards, I started to get out of bed, spoke to my husband and said, I've changed my mind, darling, let's go home. And that's right, I only remember the laughter. What did I learn from that moment? Hard to say, but I only have one child.